Hello guys, good evening to all. How are you guys? How's you guys are doing guys? All good? Am I audible guys or not? Are you guys clearly able to hear me? Should I increase the volume or something is basically there? Tell me. All right, all right. So what we'll be going to do today is basically the day 4. So we'll be going to learn some other things over here. So all right. So is my screen visible or not? Okay. Now so what we'll be going to do, we'll be simply going to log into our local host, and today is basically the day 4. So we'll be going to create a new schema that is going to be your day 4. And we have created the day 4 one, and I'll be just simply going to click over here for writing the query and all. Okay. So now what today we'll be basically going to do is we'll be going to learn about some things like date. We'll be going to learn about if there is a date column and we have to play with that particular column, so how we'll be able to do it. So let us just say first create a table day 3, day 4, sorry, and I'll be going to execute it. So I have like successfully executed it over here, and after that some rows I'll be just going to insert over here, like multiple rows I'll be going to insert over here. So these are the rows that I'll be basically going to insert over here. Let's just say day 4. I'm going to run it and it has like successfully executed it. So after that we'll be just going to look into the table of it. So let me just click over here. So just see, this is basically my table that we have just created for now. Now let us just say, let's just consider some scenario over here. Let us just say what I basically have to do over here. If I basically have to get the current date, so how I'll be able to do it? I simply basically have to run this one. So there is something known as cur date. So over here, why basically this thing is important? In SQL, if you basically have to work with date column, and if you basically have to manipulate it or some kind of analysis or filtering out the data, you basically have to do on the basis of date column, or let us just say a new value you basically have to create on the basis of date column only. So at that time we use these date things. Now let us just move for the advanced one over here. Let us just say what I basically have to do. I have just shown you the data set of this employee. Just see this thing. This is basically my data set. Now, what if I basically have to find the hire date should be in the format of month, day, and year. So how I'll be able to do it? If the date format I basically want the date format that is basically over here in month, day, and year. So how I'll be able to do it? Just like this only. Okay, like this. So what I have did, select day 4 dot employee id, sorry, not this one. Select employee id, first name, last name, and then I have simply mentioned date format. Now which column I am basically changing the date format, that is going to be hire date. And over here I have basically mentioned I want in month, day, and year. As now this column will going to rename it as a nickname we'll be going to give over here, that is formatted hire date. Now from employees we are getting is that is day 4 dot employees. Now let me just simply execute it. So you'll be able to see that this is the new column that it has basically created over here. All right. So just see, it is your day, it is your month, day, and year. Now, if you want to like convert it into, let us just say, uh, first year should be there, then after that month should be there, then after that day should be there. So you just have to run it and simply just see first year is there, then month is there, then day is there. What if you basically want to do day over here and month in the end? So you can simply do this one. All right. Now, let us just look into the data set. This was basically my data set that I have shown you over here, right? Just one second. Okay, like this is basically my data set. This one. Now just see, if I have a data set that basically have employee ID, first name, last name, department, salary, and hire date is also there. That on which date the employee was hired. Now, what if I basically have to calculate, let us just say the number of days since each employee was hired, like how many time they have spent in the organization. So for that, what can anyone tell me, if I have to find the difference between the date, what I can use over here? Guys, come on. If I have to find out the difference between the dates, let's just say current date from the this higher date. Guys, what do you think? All right, use a where. Okay, so we'll be going to use something called as date diff. Okay, date diff will be basically going to use. So what we are doing, select employee ID, like we are selecting these column, first name, last name, and hire date. We are not selecting department and salary. Now I have simply mentioned date diff cur date. Cur date is the first this thing that I have shown you the query. Okay, cur date comma hire date as days since hired from employees. So I'll be going to rename this hire date, the difference that I'll be going to calculate, as a day since hired, and I'll be simply going to execute it. Okay, so over here I just have to mention my day 4 dot employees. Now just see, so this is the nickname that we have given over here, this one, that is days since hired. So this is like the days, how many days a particular employee has spent over here. Cool. Okay, now let's just see some other things, that if you basically want to look into only the higher date and the higher year, how it would look like. Date diff, I have just shown you, it is date diff. Okay, that is date diff. Now just see, so what I have did over here, I have did select employee ID, first name, last name, then I have called date format. After that, higher date was basically there, the column. I am looking for the year only as higher year. Now again, date format, higher date, the same column I am calling, and what I'm looking for, only month. So as higher month from day 4 to employees. All right. So that's why it is giving me higher year and higher month. Clear till now, guys? Do you guys have any kind of a confusion till now? So we have seen cur date, date format, and date diff. Are we guys clear till now? Okay, Manish, what is your confusion? Please tell me. Date diff I have just explained you. Okay, just give me 1 second. Diff, date diff is basically nothing, but you just have to find out the date difference over here, nothing else. Okay, look, this was my query. Okay, this is basically my query. So what I have did in date diff, you have to mention two things: the difference that you are finding. So right now I'm finding a difference between current date and the higher date. But if you want to mention some specific date, that you can also do. So that is what date diff is. All right. So we have did select employee ID column that we are selecting first name, last name, hire date. Then we are creating a new column that is date diff, current date, comma hire date, and will be the value that we'll be going to get from this date diff. This will be going to store in a column that will going to be days since hire. That's it. All right. Now there is something known as inner joint, left joint, right joint. So that we'll be going to cover for now. So just see what is basically inner joint and all. So let's just try to understand over here. With the help of this diagram, we'll be going to understand it. Now just see what inner joint is. Let's just say if you have table A and table B, right? And if you are doing an inner joint on something, like I'll be just going to show you. So what inner joint do is, if there is some matching thing, then it will return you that only. Screen is not showing. Okay, sorry. Just give me 1 second. Okay, now I think it is visible, right? Just see. So if there is some inner joint, if we'll be going to use inner joint, what we'll be going to do over here is that if I have table A and table B and they are basically having a matching data, so or that only it will return over here. What is left joint? Let us just say if you have table A and table B, and if you want, if the matching data is basically there in your left table, only then get the data from B table. Similarly, this is like outer joint. This is your basically left joint and right joint. So let me just show you more examples over here. Just see, like this. All right. So this is basically your SQL inner joint. This is your table customer. This is your table order. So what you have did is you have basically combined it on customer ID. So wherever customer ID is matching, it will only give you that particular record. Got it, guys? Just see this one. So that is basically going to be your inner joint. Similarly, if I just show you the right joint, just give me 1 second. Just see. So this is my right joint. That means where I have customer and order ID is basically there. So if customer ID is basically matching, let's just say 3 and 5 is there and 3 and 5 is there. But what is this? This is right joint. That means we'll be going to give importance to the right table that we have. All right. So it has given all the data for the matching ID, let's just say customer ID, where 3 and 5 was basically there. And amount is the first name it has also given, but the amount was not there in the customer ID. So right joint, whenever we are doing right or left joint, that means we are giving fully importance to that particular table. If I'm writing right, that means full importance to the right table, all the column will going to be included, and the matching thing will be there. And even something is not matching, let us just say amount was not matching, so it will be going to give the full amount of it. Similarly, the left joint is basically there. Cool. Now let's just see it practical. Let me just share my screen over here. I have like again shared the screen. I hope my screen is visible for now. Is my screen is not visible? Okay, good. So we'll be simply going to create a table over here. So that will basically look like this is going to be day 4 dot employees, and this is basically going to be day 4 dot employees, same thing, and let us just execute it. All right, so this is the table that we have basically created. One table is basically there. Now one more table we'll be going to create. The name will be department. Similarly, one more table, because we have to work with multiple table. Day 4 dot department, day 4 dot department, and let's just execute it. Again, we have created this also. Now first we'll be going to work with inner joints. First we'll be basically going to work with inner joint. What are basically your inner joint? So inner joint, I have told you that whichever like value will going to match, we'll be going to directly pick up that one. So let me just refresh it first of all, just to show you both the tables. So this is your department, this is your employees. So this is how employees table look like and department table look like. Now I have basically written one query over here, that is from employees dot employee ID, employees dot first name, employees dot last name, just a table I'm calling, and departments dot department name. So this is just a nothing but a table name from employees. from. So I over here I basically have to mention this one. Which schema is it? Day 4 dot employees inner join department on employees dot department ID, this thing. So over here also I basically have to select day 4, this thing. So just see one thing, whenever you are calling join, you will be going to work with two tables. So what we have did, select employees dot employee ID. So whenever you will be going to call a column, in front of it you basically have to call the table name over here. Employees dot first name, that means from employee, this table we are basically taking employee ID, first name, last name, and from department I am basically taking department name, because just see department ID is over here basically and employee ID is also over here. So we are considering both basically have same kind of information. Now I have basically written from where, day 4 dot employees inner joined day 4 dot departments. That means we are calling it from the schema. Now on which I basically want to join, there should be one column where we have to join. Let us just say department is there and employee is there. What do you think, guys? Which thing is common that we'll be going to use to combine it? Which column is common? Because you will be able to join two tables on something if there is something common. Department ID, right? So we have like did it on employees dot department ID is equal to department dot department ID. Now let us just execute it. Okay, department ID it is basically saying, so that is going to be day 4 dot department employees. Now it is basically showing employee ID is there, first name, last name, and department name that we have seen, and we have did the inner join. That means whichever thing was matching, it will just going to return that. All right. Now let us just consider what is basically your left joint and how you can basically execute the left joint. Similarly, left joint we'll be going to use like this. Select employees.employee ID, employees.first name, employees.last name, department.department name from where, day 4 dot employees. Left joint we basically have to do day 4 dot departments on day 4 dot department ID, day 4 dot department ID, departments dot department ID. Now what result it will going to give me? Just see, left basically means which one was the left over here. If you will be just going to see over here, left join. Okay, so it will be going to give importance to this one. In department we was having department ID and all the departments that we was basically having, and in employees we was having employee ID, first name and last name. All right, if I just simply remove it and if I just show you the result, just see. The left joint we are doing on the department ID. Similarly, instead of left, you just have to right. Just see. So this will going to be your marketing is basically missing because marketing was basically not there. Just see. In department ID, marketing is there, but in employees, marketing department is not there. Any kind of a confusion till now, guys? This is basically the definition of these things. Inner joint return only the rows which matching data in both tables. Left joint return all rows from the left table and the matched rows from the right table. If no match, null value are returned for columns for the right tables. Now what is right joint? return all rows from the right table, similarly as left table. All right, cool. Now, have you ever heard about these things, guys? Using subqueries in select, from, and where clause. What are these? Have you ever used subqueries, or have you ever heard about it? Yes, query inside the query, right? Okay. So first, like yes, like nested query. So what I'll be going to do first, I'll be going to create a table. So we have basically created a table. When you'll be going to mention left table and after the table, that will be your left table. Okay. So we basically have to do these things. Let us just create one more table over here. Okay, why it is giving me an error? Let's just see this thing. Department table is already there. That's fine. Nice. Good. All right. So what I basically have to do for now is I basically have to write a subquery. Now how my subquery will going to look like? Let's just have a look over here. So it will be like, okay. Now what I have basically written over here, guys, just see one thing, that I have basically written select e dot employee id, e dot first name. So whenever I'll be going to mention it like this, yeah. So what I have did e dot employee id. Now what is this e dot over here? I'll be just going to explain you this thing. First, just try to understand the query. E dot employee id, e dot first name, e dot last name, e dot salary. Whenever you will be going to write a query inside a query, you first don't mention the table name directly. Now after that, what you have to do, select average, then salary from day 41 dot employees. That is basically my schema name. Where day 4 underscore 1 dot department id is equal to e dot department id as average department salary. Okay, now we have seen, now we are like writing from employees e. Okay, This is what we have basically did over here. All right. So why it is basically not giving me this result? Okay, now good. So what we basically have to do over here is select e dot employee id, e dot first name, e dot last name, e dot salary, select average, e2 dot salary. Okay, and what we have basically did, from day 41 underscore employees as e2 we are selecting, where e2 dot department id is equal to e dot department id, and we are like selecting it as e. Okay, this is what we have basically did over here. So this is basically known as your subqueries. Just give me 1 second, guys, just 1 second. All right, so these are basically your subqueries that we basically have over here, where you will be going to call the table at the end. This is basically the rule of subquery, nothing else. All right, now yesterday we have seen basically order by. Now we'll be going to look into group by. So can anyone tell me what is group by? What is group by in SQL? Just see one thing, guys, over here. Yeah, adding table. So what we have did, e dot employee id, it's the same thing I have basically explained you. E is basically what, at the later stages we are basically calling the table name as e. Only that thing we are basically doing over here. Just see, day 4 underscore 1 dot employees as e. Okay, this is the only thing that we have did over here. Okay, what is the difference between group by and order by, guys? What do you think, guys? Okay, just see, one thing is basically there, guys. If I just talk about what is the key difference between these things, so the group by function that you basically have, right? It groups the rows which basically have the same values into summary rows. I can basically say what you can consider it as like basically finding the total number of employees and in each department. And if I just consider order by over here, so order by just sorts the result. Order by will just going to simply sort it. Okay. Group by you will be going to use when you will going to basically apply aggregate function to the multiple records and group the result by one and more columns. An order by is used when you need to sort the query result based on one or more columns. So group by is the aggregate function and order by is just a sorting thing. With group by you can simply use sum, count, min, max and or, but order by does not require aggregate function. It just sort the results. Clear? So that is basically what your group by is over here, right? Now, what I basically have to do, I'll be just simply going to use the group by over here by using select department ID count star as employee count from day 4 underscore 1 dot employees group by day 4 underscore 1 dot department ID. Okay. Okay, I think some columns are basically missing over here. Was it in day 4 only, the employee and the department ID that we have? Let's just see this thing. Okay, so what we basically have to do, let's just do one thing. The things that we are basically looking over here, I think we have to create a new table for over here. Create a schema day 4 underscore 2 because right now we are working with different column that we was not working previously. So let's just write a simple query for it for creating these things. So this will be like day 4 underscore 2 day 4 underscore 2 executed. So it has like executed successfully. Now we'll be simply going to create one more table that is going to be departments. Day 4 underscore 2. So this is also got executed. Now the query that we was writing will be just simply going to use that one. Day 4 underscore 2. Sorry. Day 4 underscore 2 dot employees. I think some problem we have. Just give me 1 second. Let me just refresh it all. Departments. Sorry. I was considering it as a table only. So what we have basically did, select department ID count star as employee count. That means how many employees we basically have. If I just simply show you the employees, so just see over here, this is basically employee ID, first name, last name, department ID, salary and hire date. So what we have did is we have simply did select department ID count star as employee count. That means we are basically counting how many, like in each department how many this thing we have. Department ID like 1 and 1 is basically getting repeated two times, and 2 is getting repeated two times, and 3 is getting repeated one time. So it will just going to show me in department 1, department ID where 1 is basically have, they have two employees. Then where department ID is 2, they have again two employees. Where department ID is 3, they have only one employee. So we have did it from, this is the schema name, the table name, group by department ID. So we are considering department ID. That means from the department ID, we are group buying the whole document that we basically have. This is what we are doing basically over here. Similarly, some other examples with respect to group by, I can basically say the average salary that we will be going to look into. So let us just say from employees. So this will going to be day 4 underscore 2 employees, and simply execute this one. So you will be able to get, with respect to the department ID, you will be going to get average salary. So the same query is there. We haven't changed anything in it. It is just a same query that we have basically seen. Okay, so why we can use group by? If someone will going to ask you, so just tell them perform aggregation, like calculate total, average, count, min and max value from a group. Or the second thing is basically analyze segments. You can basically break down data into meaningful segments for analysis. What is the third thing? Third thing is basically generate reports, create detailed reports that provide insights into specific grouping of data, because you can basically create reports on it. Right now, have you ever seen this thing, filtering group data using having? What is the meaning of it? Now what I'll be simply going to do, I'll be simply going to write this query where I have basically mentioned select department ID count star as employee count from employees, group by department ID having count greater than this thing. Now over here I just have to mention and just execute this one. So just see this thing. Understood, guys? Just see what we have did. Select department ID count star as employee count. That means from the department ID, we are just same query that we have written previously, but we have just filtered it out that employee should be greater than 1. So let us just look into it. Select department ID count star as employee count from day 4 dot employees, and we are group buying it on the department ID, and we have add one more thing, having count should be greater than 1. Always remember one thing, guys, having you will be only going to use value when you will be going to use group by. Got it? Any kind of a confusion till now, guys? Now same example. Yes, additional filter you can consider. Okay, so again the same thing, we are just doing having average salary greater than 70,000. We have grouped by it on department ID. Now we are filtering it out. Now the next thing, do you guys have any kind of a confusion till now, guys? Are we guys clear till now? So the next thing that we'll be going to learn about, using set operation, union, intersect and expect. So we have union, union all, intersect and accept. What are basically these things? Okay. Having you will be going to use when you will be going to filter out the values using group by. All right. And where we use before, like having you can use, but having you have to use after the where statement. Okay. So now let's just understanding what is union basically. So union is basically nothing. It basically combines the result of two queries. That is basically your union is, and it also remove duplicates. And if I just talk about what is union all, it basically combines the result of again two queries, but it keep duplicates. Always remember guys, it keep duplicate rows. But if I just talk about union, it remove duplicate rows. And if I just talk about intersect, so what is basically that? It return only the row that appears in both queries. And if I just talk about accept, so it return rows from the first query that are not in the second query. Okay. So these are basically your these things. So let us just see this thing now. So what we are doing over here guys, that we have like this thing. So from employees, day 4 underscore 2 dot employees. Okay. From, okay, I basically have to create this table first. Really sorry for that. Day 4 underscore 2. Day 4 underscore 2. Okay. Now what was the query that we was having? This one. Just give me 1 second, guys. Day 4 underscore 2 is basically there, right? I think I should like create it. I have refreshed it or not. First, I basically have to refresh it. Refresh all. Whether this table is present or not, let me just check. Former employees basically they're all right. Day 4 underscore 2 and day 4 underscore 2 dot employees. All right. And what was the query then? This one. Okay, first name, last name. Let me just look into it first of all. Refresh all. That just go in the particular schema. Click on we are working with employees. We are working with former employees. So these two tables we have for now. That is like employee ID, first name, last name we have, and department ID, salary we basically have. Let me just clear the rest of this part that we have over here. Just give me 1 second. Okay, let me just clear these things. So I will going to have a little bit of space. Don't save, don't save. All right, now we'll be basically going to look into it. So let us just say we have a schema. Employee is basically there and former employee is basically there. So in the former employees, we have employee ID, first name, last name, department ID, salary. And in these things, employees ID, first name, last name, department ID, and salary. All the things are basically same over here. So what we'll be basically going to do over here, we'll be simply going to write our query just to see how basically these are working. So I'll be simply going to do select first name from employees, union all, and after that, like I'll be simply going to do from former employees. So it will be like day 4 underscore 2 day 4 underscore 2. All right. So just see this thing now. We'll be going to get the first name and the last name over here. And if I'll be just going to do the union over here, so it will going to give me this one. Union all will keep the duplicate rows and union will remove the duplicate rows. All right. Now, similarly, we have basically this intersect. Okay. So just see this thing. What we have did, select salary from day 4.2 employees, and after that we have basically did same thing, salary from the day 4.2 formal employees, and we have basically used the intersect. And I told you it only return the rows that appear in both query. Whichever salary was there in both table, it will only simply return that one. Clear now? Formal employees and employees. Guys, do you have any kind of a confusion till now? Because like this is it for today's session. Do you guys have any kind of a question till now? Or do you guys have any kind of a doubt? All right. So this is it for today's session, guys. Rest of the thing or mini project we'll be going to do tomorrow. So thanks, guys, for joining. Then bye bye, guys. Good night. Take care. Good night, guys.